Welcome to Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan, training you to lead with courage.
Hello, everyone. We are welcoming you to Courageous Leadership. Today, we have a very special guest. You're going to enjoy her. Her name is Maggie Wallen Rowe. I met Maggie as we were together at Tyndale during the time that we work on my book, Saving My Assassin, and I had just a wonderful experience. And now she's retired and she is doing amazing things. Absolutely. You know, I love to invite at my podcast courageous leaders. And you, Maggie, you are a courageous leader. So I will let you introduce yourself to my listeners and to my viewers.
Well, thank you, Virginia. And I am so honored to be on your show. You are a courageous woman. If I had to look it up in the dictionary, the definition of a woman of courage, I would say Virginia Prodan. And that's, of course, how I got to know you. I had the privilege of serving on the staff of Tyndale House Publishers in Chicagoland for 12 years as a senior publicist. And even though I didn't work directly on your book, I think your book is very important to Tyndale, and that the top staff member got to work on your book, but all of us supported it. And then you and I have stayed in touch since the release. And amazingly, Virginia, I never dreamed of becoming an author myself. My job was a servant leader job. It was to help authors like you and others. I worked with you, along with Todd, with Beth Moore, with various pastors. And my job was to help secure reviews and media interviews. It was to help amplify the voice of women and men that God was raising up to tell their stories to the world. But I didn't think anybody would be interested in hearing my story. And at that time, I never had the courage to even send in a book proposal, even though I had loved to write since I was 6 years old. In fact, when I was 8 or 9, my mother, after long days on the farm where I grew up, she would type my stories and send them to magazine, all of whom rejected them nicely. But you know what I have learned, Virginia, and I was reminded this week, that what can feel like rejection is really redirection. Somebody may say no to us, but if we don't try, how will we know? And to me, the definition of courage is not that we're not afraid. You've certainly had many things to be afraid of, but you did what you had to anyway. That's the whole point of Saving My Assassin. And for me, my whole life story, in the 45 years I've been in pastoral ministry with my husband, in raising my children, my grandchildren, we have a special needs grandchild now on the way, in becoming an author at the age of 67. My first book came out when I was 67, an age that most people aren't starting a new profession. But it all came not because I had confidence. My only confidence is in God, not in myself. But it was saying, if God opens the door, I'm going to walk through it, even if I am afraid, because look what God can do. So let me pause there and see if you have any questions, and then I can actually tell you the story of how this book came about, which is, I think, why you asked me to be on the show.
I think it's wonderful. I love the way you say it, and I hope that people of any ages, of any culture that will hear this podcast or watch it will be encouraged, because it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter when and how you decide to do it. Is the fact that you have the skill, the capability, and you will influence other lives with what you are doing. Instead, to me, is because I always believe that we can live a victorious life. I all I believe from what you said is that instead of being retired and looking around at what you can do or you cannot do and go into depression and feel like a victim, you decided that you will be victorious. You will start writing an influence because you have what it takes to influence. And I love what you are saying. I hope people take notes. Rejection, it's in fact a redirection.
Exactly.
So rise up from that victim mentality to victor. Learn from rejections and see where those rejections are redirecting you. It's just absolutely. So I will just want to give you the opportunity to tell us about you know how you came about to write this book.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell the story, because while God works differently in all of our lives, there are principles that are transferable. And one of them for me, Virginia, is that my husband and I officially retired 3 years ago from full-time pastoral ministry. He had pastored 3 churches over almost 45 years with me helping him in partnership. And then also once our children were grown, I began working for Tyndale as a way of putting our children through school, but also it was a chance to serve others, as I've said. But interestingly enough, Virginia, now that retirement is a funny thing. We have never really retired. We simply swapped full-time jobs that we had to make a living, and now we're making a life in a different way. My husband was a full-time pastor, but he used to volunteer as a swim coach. He loves working with young people. And when we moved to the mountains of Western North Carolina, where we live now, he was hired as a swim coach. So now he is being paid to do what was a hobby or an avocation before. And the same thing for me, Virginia. I do want to tell the story because I hope it will encourage readers who think, oh, I'm too old for something big to happen. That's not true. The story of men and women in the Bible, for instance, is that you're never too old or too young for a God-given assignment. And for me, the fact that I even have a book in print, it's called This Life We Share, 52 Reflections on Journeying Well with God and Others. And it was published in a hardcover by Nav Press out of Colorado Springs in alliance with Tyndale House just a year ago. It came out during COVID when the whole world shut down. And yet, I want to tell your listeners and you, Virginia, how it came about, because it really is a miracle. About 35 years ago, and it's a long story, I won't take time to tell, but God led me into a drama ministry. I was invited to speak at a little tiny church in the middle of nowhere in New England. And rather than me speak, I did a one-woman drama I wrote about the life of Mary, mother of Jesus. Well, at the time, I was 40, and I thought, I am too old and I am the wrong ethnicity to play the Holy Mother. But one engagement led to 4, led to 8, led to 12. And now after 30 years, I have shared her story, the story of Jesus through the eyes of the woman who knew him best, hundreds of times. Well, cut to the present day. Several years ago, I had a chance to do this one-woman drama, and a publisher happened to be in the audience. Now, for me, doing this drama has always been difficult. It's an hour long. It requires on my memory. I have to use costumes. It's physically and emotionally draining. But this publisher was there. He sent me a note afterwards. We became Facebook friends. And I linked my blog, which is simply called View from the Ridge. It's on my website, which is www.maggierowe.com. But I linked my blog, which I've been writing for probably 15 years, to Facebook. He started reading my blog and sent me a private message and said, "You've got a book in you." And Virginia, I cried because I have loved to write for 60 years, but I didn't think anybody would ever publish the kind of thing I write. Lo and behold, I signed a contract that fall. And the book came out in May of last year. And the only reason I was discovered is I was walking through a ministry door that I never wanted in the first place, any more than you chose to go through what happened to you. But God used it. And out of that came tremendous opportunities to minister to other people, even through things we would not have originally chosen to do. So I call that my Matthew 6:33 principle. Seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. So when we say yes to God, doing something that we may not have initially wanted to do, he never wastes that. He uses it. And for me, Virginia, he used that drama ministry to open the door to becoming an author, something I thought was only for other people, younger people, more courageous people. I was scared to death. In fact, when he called to tell me that the publication team said yes, I cried as if my heart would break, because I said, Lord, at my age, you're sending me into a new career? Only God could do that. And then amazingly, it happened a second time. When COVID started a year ago, I happened to be in Asheville, near where I live, and my husband and I went to a donut shop. This was right before the world closed down. And it was such a delightful experience. I wrote a post about it. I called it Sweet Therapy for Stressful Times. Another publisher saw it. They contacted me and said, this gives us an idea for a gift book. Lo and behold, we went back and forth. 3 months later, I signed another contract. A second miracle. And that book, it's called Life is Sweet, Y'all, because I live in the South now. That will come out next March. So thank you for asking me to share how it came about. It was none of my doing. It wasn't because I was smart or had connections or I was trying to put myself out there. It was God saying, Maggie, I'm going to open a door that no man can shut and no woman can shut if you're willing to walk through. So thank you for letting me tell that story. I hope it encourages your listeners.
I hope it encourages me. I'm writing 2 books, one about persecution, because I really believe that American people need to be encouraged and realize there is nothing about me that I was able not only to survive but thrive during the persecution, that God in me can do the same thing with them. So I'm writing that book, and I write another book because by the grace of God, he helped me to raise very strong and courageous children, three kids by myself as a single mom, and they loved the Lord. They went to very good colleges, SMU, Harvard Law School, Air Force Academy, and they graduated honoring the Lord and doing God's will, and it's possible. So I'm writing those two books, and it's very encouraging, because what you said, I hope somebody that listens or see the podcast will say, like that person said to you, there is a book in you. They will feel like you address that, or I address that to them. There is a book in you. No matter your age, no matter, your ethnicity, where you are in this world, your mess can be your message, and
Yes.
can bring so much miracles, God's miracles in somebody's life, and encourages. I love also the fact that what you said, that for so many years, each one of you, your husband and yourself, you made a living. And now you make a living now, yes. And now you are making a life by
Yes.
what you are doing. Because when and I am all for success. I'm all for success. If people go to my website, they will see that I'm training people and I'm encouraging people to have success. But success without significance, it's nothing. Success will bring you to the top, and then you will say, and what's next? And you will go all the way to the bottom if you don't have significance. And when you said you made a living and now you are making a life, that's that connection, success and significance. And I hope people understand that how you can make that. You are a great example of what can be done and what it's going to be done and so forth. Tell us about how our listeners and our viewers can connect with you.
Oh, thank you for asking. I love to hear from readers and listeners and viewers. The easiest way is through my website because that never changes. It's www.maggierowe.com, and that's MaggieRowe.com. And I do blog. I do a new post every Tuesday. If readers sign up for that, they can download the first chapter of my book, This Life We Share, and they'll get information about the new one coming out, which is a gift book. The subtitle is called Wit and Wisdom with a Side of Sass. So, but the first one is this one, This Life We Share, is a more serious, substantive book. Groups have used it for Bible study, and a number of groups used it during COVID when they could only connect on Zoom, because the chapters are very short. They can be read in 3 or 4 minutes, and they're on many different topics that have to do with relationships and our eternal relationship with God, our earthly relationships with each other, our vocation, and also dealing with our emotions. So the book can be purchased anywhere books are sold. It's on Amazon, Christian book distributors, Barnes & Noble, but they can always connect with me through my website, MaggieRowe.com. Thank you for asking me to. I'm delighted to share.
That's my pleasure. And we just reached just a little bit about the wealth that you can provide. I know we will invite you again and talk the rest of the things that we want to hear. And I know my listener and viewers will love to do that. Until next time, I just want to thank you so very much for coming here and giving us so much of the values and your courageous leadership. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for the opportunity, Virginia.
If you want to know more about Virginia Prodan, her coaching program, buy her book, Saving My Assassin, or invite Virginia to speak at your events, visit virginiaprodanbooks.com.